Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, Facebook Live Nation, how are you? How are you? How are you? I hope everybody got some rest yesterday on the wonderful day that it was, Martin Luther King's birthday. It's amazing how as you get older, I know me, I can speak for myself. This is when you know you're getting older. I find myself being more and more interested in history, more and more interested in things like the civil rights movement, more and more interested in literally just everything. I just find myself being more and more interested in watching CNN. You know, there was once a time you watched CNN strictly because it was just on the TV and you didn't have a choice. But this, when you know you're getting old, is when you come in and you turn your TV to CNN and you start caring more about what the world is about and what's going on. And so, you know, it refers to a cycle of life that we all have to come to at some point. And for those of you all just now coming on, or those of you who have never watched me before, this is Knowledge by Nikki with 1K. And I am here today to talk about what I think is serious in us being able to focus on moving forward. You know, I'm a big advocate of change. I've been doing this thing now. I've been at this journey. You know, I thought it was 30 years, guys. It's 29. I'm a year off. Because I actually started February 28th, professionally, February 28th, 1989. So that puts February this year at 29 years, which is cool because I really want to have a big shindig for my 30th. So I'm cool with that. So 29 years, guys, I've been at this thing. And I've been, when I say I came out the blocks running with blinders on, laser focused on what it is that I wanted to do. And you know, even when you start off, you kind of want to do something, but then you shift a little bit and then you go within the same realm, but you may go into other avenues based off of what you're exposed to. So that's what I did. But today isn't about my resume. Today is about me helping you understand your resume. When I woke up yesterday, I sleep with my iPad, guys. I don't sleep with the phones because, you know, we be on them phones and we wake up like this. So I've trained myself to put the phones in another room because they be dinging all night long anyway. So I put the phones in another room, but I do sleep with my iPad because that's also my alarm clock. So I woke up yesterday and my Comcast, my cable, which I got a big TV in the room, but something about me watching it on my iPad. I got the big iPad I just love. So I turned it on, put it on Xfinity, which is my cable, and the first thing that popped up was a Martin Luther King special. It was only 45 minutes, but it was kind of just a condensed story and chronicle of his life. Now, I don't care how many times, unless you're a historian, that you've heard about all the things that have happened in the civil rights movement. I know for me, every time I really sit and listen to something, I always learn something I didn't know. So I listened to it probably about 4 or 5 times now. So what I realized, because everything is a teachable moment for me, is that from the time Martin Luther King was put in this world, he was born in 1929, and I'm going to chronicle the things that I learned. Some I knew, some I didn't. He had a mission, guys. He had a mission, and he was laser focused from the time he was a young boy in his mission. And I want to use that after I explain some of the things that happened, because metaphorically, what I got from that is that this is what a lot of us are not. We're not mission oriented. We're not laser focused on the things that can help us win. You know, last week I did a Facebook Live on, you know, what does winning look like to you? And I believe that this is what allowed him to be able to get to his destiny. Even though he was martyred, he was killed, but God had a plan in his life, and God had a time that he was put here to do what he needed to do, and he accomplished that. So let me go through some of the chronicles of his life. So y'all be with me. This early Black History Month here. In 1929, King was born. By 1943, he was an accomplished speaker. He was only 14 years old, y'all. He was an accomplished speaker because he was born, his father and his grandfather were both ministers. By 1944, which was a year later, he was age 15. He went on to college, so he graduated early because I think he skipped the 9th and the 12th grade. So he's only 15 years old going to college. By 1947, he was a minister. He got to be an ordained minister at 18. So he's focused. He's on this journey, right? This is his resume I'm kind of running through for you all. By 1953, he was married to Coretta. By 1955, they had the one child, and he became the head minister of a church in Alabama. By 1956, he had gotten his PhD. Now, that means he was what? If you do from 56, 12, he's only about 27 years old. So he was fairly young, right? By 1955, he became the no black passengers on the bus. This is when Rosa Parks became important, when she was like, I ain't getting up, I'm tired, because blacks automatically had to go to the back of the bus once whites came on, and if the bus got too full with whites, blacks had to stand up. This is when the black boycott started, where blacks just like, we ain't riding the bus no more. This is when blacks were together, and they started carpooling and doing different things like that, so they didn't have to ride the bus at all, which in turn cost the bus company money. So that was in 1955. But all of this was part of what King started. King was elected president of the organization that really spearheaded that movement in 1955 also. In 1956, he was arrested for the very first time. Now, you know, he's arrested hundreds of times after that. But in 1956, this was his first arrest because he was laser focused. This is what he believed in. By November of 56, the bus segregation was declared illegally. So change had started to happen. By 1956, wasn't no more of this, we got to get up, you get in where you fit in. That was by 1956. By 1957, the Southern Christian Leadership Congress, which is what King was basically hired to be the head of, was birthed. So it was the Southern Christian Leadership Congress. And I want to say something about that. He realized, this is what happened here. King realized that his vision for the world was bigger than him. And he knew as one man, there was no way that he could do this on his own. So this whole Southern Christian Leadership Congress was about birthing and cultivating and training other leaders to help carry out his vision. Okay, and that's something that us salon owners are not doing. So that's what that was about. That happened in 1957. Also in 1957, the first national address. This was one of his first speeches that he had actually given. And also his second child was born. I did not know what I'm getting ready to tell you now. In 1958, he was stabbed in the chest. With all that I've heard, I never known that. So he was out of commission for a little while. And then by 1960, his movement had inspired college students to start what they call sit-ins. That means where white-only restaurants or diners, where blacks couldn't even come in to eat at all, college students start going in anyway and sitting across the counters, the little eat-in bar type counters, and they refused to get up, and they kept doing this over and over and over again, and that's where the name sit-ins came from. In 1960 was when Kennedy came into the picture. So now we have a white Democratic president, and he beat Richard Nixon, just barely beat him now. But this is when we had a white president that came in that had a different compassion for the civil rights movement and did not fully agree with a lot of the hate that he saw. This was all also inspired by King. By 1961, the whites started to join the civil rights movement. This is when other people now wanted to say, you know what, this stuff ain't right. So, and you know, Steve Harvey has made a statement several times on his show, and I do believe this. Things that we are not happy about even today as black people, things that we feel we're wrong with, because we still got some hate going on today. He has said, and I agree with him, things will not fully change until white people start not liking it. Until also whites, we have to have our own unity first. But then also when whites start saying this ain't going to work, that's when you start to see change. So that we're at 1961 now, right? And I'm skipping some stuff because it was a whole lot in the middle. But I'm showing you what a resume looks like. Then, by May of 1961, King and some of his civil rights followers were trapped in a Montgomery church. They were talking about killing them, and it was the U.S. Marshals that had to get them out safe. In 1961 still, segregation, only on the interstate level, that means only kind of on a state level, had ended, where it was no more, blacks couldn't go here or blacks couldn't be integrated into the school system. That was ended in 1961, but the hate was still there. 1962, James Meredith was the first black student to go to University of Mississippi. So, that didn't set well. So that was also met with violence and all of this. But James Meredith was still around for a little while. 1963, most of us have heard about the story with Medgar Evers, who was over the NAACP. He was killed in that year. So you have this social climate of all of this hate because of what was starting or what was happening. And the civil rights movement had built such a momentum that the whites, they tried, but they still couldn't fight it because it had become nationwide now. Now, this is what a resume looks like. By 1963, April 12th, his second child, Martin Luther King's second child, was born. And he started the march with Ralph Abernathy. My glasses are tripping. And President Kennedy, he started the talks with having a march on Washington with Ralph Abernathy to President Kennedy. They sat down for a meeting. They talked about it. Kennedy wasn't in full agreement for them to have it because he already knew what this was going to incite. But nevertheless, he did it anyway. By 1963, children, smaller children now, had started to join the march because their parents were influencing them that you got to get on this bandwagon too. It's not just for adults, it's for children too, because, children were being killed and children were being wronged just like adults. Hold on, let me make sure I get this right, because they were also met with violence, just so you know. This is when the water cans and they were, gas, and this is when they were doing all of that, and they were doing this to the children, guys. This was not just to adults. So by 1963, King's house was bombed and his church. This was by 1963. By June, this was in May. So now by June 1963, he met with Kennedy again. They talked about again on the march in Washington. This kind of all happened in the same year. So this was the second meeting with Kennedy about the march on Washington. And then the march actually happened August of 63. Now, we all know what the March on Washington was. That's the historical march that we see today that attracted millions of people, had nationwide coverage, and will go down as probably one of the most prolific marches ever in history. By 1963, the black church in Alabama was bombed that killed the 4 little girls. I knew about that, and I'm sure some of you all did too. By November 1963 is when Kennedy was shot. He was shot in Dallas in his motorcade riding through the city. So this changed the social and political climate of the entire country because he was actually trying to help the civil rights movement. So, this created a shift, which is where the Black Panthers and all of them and Malcolm X, this is when that was brewing, because Martin believed in nonviolence, but you also had a fraction of black people that they weren't for that. They like, no, we tired of this nonviolence thing. And that's where Martin, the Black Panthers, and they came a little later. I'm going to get to that. But this is where that started brewing. It's for other people to kind of handle it a different way. 1964 is when Lyndon B. Johnson actually voted the Civil Rights Act into Congress. 1964 still, King became Time Magazine's Man of the Year. In 1964 again, he was the first of the youngest to actually win the Nobel Peace Prize. 1964 again. This is where the civil rights movement was basically passed, but the hate was still at an all-time high. So James Chaney, Michael Schreiner, Andrew Goodman, they were all under 25 years old, were killed in Mississippi because basically at a job working still on some of their civil rights projects. In 1964, King was arrested again. Y'all know he was arrested 1,000 times within that. This is when Malcolm X really was on fire, and he was kind of preaching. They were preaching a similar message, but just with different tactics, because Malcolm X, we know definitely he was not for being non-violent, not necessarily violent, but he just wanted to handle it a slightly different way. So now this is kind of where blacks who are really fighting for the same purpose, and we still see this somewhat today, choose to go about a different route. So it almost appears to whites that we are in opposition of each other, which to some degree we are. We have to learn a way to come together, to agree to disagree, and make sure that we have a unified front. Well, that wasn't really happening at this point. It was kind of splitting the vote, if you want to call it that. In 1965 was when the March on Selma actually came into play for the voting rights in Alabama. And this is when they had some voting rights, but what Alabama did was they put up this testing system that they knew a lot of blacks didn't know how to read. They didn't know how to do a lot of things. So 1 out of every 100 blacks was actually able to vote because they couldn't pass the testing system. So it was just a way of filtering them out subliminally. 1965, February 21st was when Malcolm X was assassinated, and we kind of all know the story after that. In August, not long after that, 1965 was when the voting right was nationally recognized as being put into Congress. I mean, everybody now had the right to vote. It was no more of the filtering process, all of that. So think about it, guys. Some of you all that may be watching this, you may have been living back then. That was not that long ago. So for all of you all on this that are listening to me that figure I ain't voting for nobody, this is a small depiction of why you should. I don't care what Tyler Perry say. I don't care if you put Donald Duck on the line. You need to get your butt out to these polls, and you need to vote. All of this happened, and I'm summing it up in a 15-minute Facebook Live on what people went through so we had the right to vote. In 1966, James Meredith, remember he was the first black that went to University of Mississippi. He decided to lead a march, and subsequently he was killed. 1966 is now when the Black Panther movement had gotten real hot because, you know, Martin's nonviolence approach to how we were going to deal with this thing, it was not something that all blacks wanted to handle it that way. So the Black Panther movement started coming into play. That's when the Watts riots started coming into play. That's when a lot of other things started happening that were actually spun out of blacks just being sick of what was going on. In 1967, King started speaking at this time against the Vietnam War. Now, this angered Lyndon B. Johnson, who was the president at this time, because he felt like he stepped in to work with the civil rights movement, and he was very much for the Vietnam War. So he took this as a sense of betrayal. So he basically didn't like that King did this, but King was about nonviolence everywhere, not just on a state level, not just on a local level, but on a world level. And he did not agree with the government sending 500,000 troops over there to basically get slaughtered. He did not agree with that. So Lyndon B. Johnson really did not care for King doing this. And so that caused a little opposition, but the nationwide coverage of the people in the world basically siding against this war became so strong that Lyndon B. Johnson decided not to run a second term. So this resume that King had was spearheaded a lot of different things and a lot of different people to lead things that they never would have led without a proper coach, leader, whatever it was. And then we know April 4th, 1968, King unfortunately was killed. Now I'm summing it up, guys. But this is what I want this to be about. Because I've heard, like I said, we all have listened to many things. We've had probably at least 20 people play King as an actor in different movies that depicted different aspects of his life. But I want you to look at your own resume. And I want you to ask yourself, because this is why I did this, is because King, from the time he was young to the time he died, he had a focus on his journey. And you can see that at no point in time was 1 year exactly like the year before. I have spoken to some of my salon owners on this Facebook Live, and you all have done the same thing from year to year to year to year to year. And then you wonder why you have not grown. As I listened to this 45-minute documentary, if you really want to call it that, what I love that they would always say before they went to another year, they would say, now that was done, King's sights were now set on this, or they were set on that. How many of you all as salon owners, every time or you've accomplished one thing, you already have your mind, your money, your people lined up, whatever it is? How many of you are setting your sights on the next leg of this journey, on the next goal to be accomplished, on the next thing? Okay, we got the retail done. Now we're going to work on this. Now we're going to work on that. A lot of you all that are coming to me and calling me, direct messaging me, and I sit down with you all, whether it's on the phone or we actually meet in person, and I talk to you all. The reason you all are not moving, you're not evolving, is because you're not focused. First of all, y'all all over the place, all over the place. And I'm gonna give you a statement that I'm gonna sidebar for a minute about being all over the place. You can't be everything. You can't be the nail girl, the hair girl, the weave girl, the business girl, the one that runs and buys the food, the one. You can't do everything, guys. And I was watching CSI the other day, and I'm sidebarring for a minute. And I'm a TV watcher, y'all. Yes, I am. I was watching CSI, some old ones. CSI Vegas. And Grissom, one of the first actors that was in the CSI, said something to one of the other actors on the screen. Her name is Sarah. So any of you all watch it, you know what I'm talking about. And she was all over the place. Whatever it was she was doing, she was just everywhere. Doing everything, trying to do too much. And he said something to her that I'm going to use for everything I do now. He says, Sarah, if you try to chase two rabbits, you end up losing them both. So I want y'all to think about that. I thought that was probably one of the most profound, simple statements I've ever heard, that if you try to chase two rabbits, put two rabbits outside and try to chase them, you're going to lose them both. That's exactly what he told her. So in this focus of what it is that I'm trying to get you to be, is focus, really. Some of you salon owners, you don't even have a resume. I need everybody that is listening to me. Hold on, my battery's going low. I need everybody that's listening to me right now. I need you to sit. You don't have to always do a resume for a job. I need you to sit and chronicle your own career. From the day you got out of school, the day you started professionally, I want you to sit and say, what have I done year after year after year after year after year? Because let me tell you what will happen. You'll sit back and you'll say, wow, either I've done a lot or I ain't done nothing. That's what you'll say. My nail girl, her name is Nia Hatcher. Sometimes she's on this Facebook Live. I actually went and got my nails done about a week ago. And she was telling me about some opportunities that she had, gotten presented with. And I was telling her, go for it. It's awesome. And she said that we don't really need resumes to do what we do. So she had to get a resume together. And what this resume did for her, she said she had someone help her get it together that does that for a living. She said she had not realized how much she had done. She said, girl, I didn't even realize I had did all this. So I want you all to hopefully have the same feeling. Either you have done a lot or you have done nothing. But this will help you to see where your accomplishments are, or if you have not accomplished anything. Sit down, write yourself out a resume, chronicle your life from when you started to now. Every year, what did you do? What did you do? What did you accomplish? What did you set out to do? Because this is the only way we grow, guys. The only way you grow is to make a decision that I'm going to every year. Corporate does it all the time. They don't want to be in the same place in 2018 that they were in 2013. That's not growth to them. And so many of you all, salon owners, have been in the same position. Same position. I get a lot of you all ask me, how did you get to do so much? You know why? Because every time I did one, I already had 2 or 3 that I was thinking of, but I knew I needed to wait, focus on this, Get this where it's up and going, and then now let's go into another leg of the journey. It's like running a relay, and you got to pass off the baton. That guy or girl is up there waiting for you to get there. But we haven't set up the action plan, okay? This first, and I mean first. There is a book I also want you all to read. It's called The Power of Focus. I think it's also by Henry Cloud. It is an excellent book on understanding you cannot do everything at one time. A friend of mine that's in California, I actually spoke to him yesterday or was it Sunday? Yeah, Sunday for a little while. He used to tell me something all the time I'll never forget. He used to say, everything can be important, but everything cannot be urgent. You cannot make everything urgent. It can all be important, but you can't. The mind is not structured to work well. Now, we know we have to multitask sometimes, but you cannot fully focus on one project well unless you narrow down. You got to streamline some of the things that you do. And that could even, guys, be in a matter of days. One day, this is what you do. The second day, this is what you do. But so many of you are trying to do 50,000 things at one time, and you lose both the rabbits. That's what ends up happening. You trying to chase two rabbits and you lose them both. So I want everyone to make a resume, add to it if you need to. Look at what it is that you are doing or not doing or have done. And then say, okay, what's next for me? Because a lot of us can't say we've done as much as Martin Luther King, and that's fine. But it should not be that you have these huge gaps in your resume where you're doing the same exact thing over and over. Not as a business owner. And you shouldn't be doing it, period. But as a business owner, you have now been put in charge of not only building your business, but building the lives and the businesses of the other people that you lead. And this is not what's happening. The minute you stepped off and said you want to be a salon owner, this is what you did. And for those of you all that are watching me, I got a lot of suite owners that are calling me, and they're like, well, how do I fit into this? Let me tell you what happens as a suite owner. As a suite owner now, you don't necessarily have other people to lead, but you have to constantly fight against getting comfortable with it just being you, because it's just you. Now you have to be even more progressive. You have to make sure that you are constantly setting up, moving the line back, creating markers further out so that you can keep accomplishing. Because the thing about suite owners, if you're not progressive by nature, you will get stale and you will be doing that same thing over and over in that suite, and you really won't grow because there's no one there to feed off of. There's no accountability. There's no anything. So as a suite owner, which you are a mini salon owner, that is what you are. You have to really do your due diligence about making sure that you are constantly adding to your resume. It is absolutely really necessary with that. So you need to know yourself. Can you do that? Are you a person that can work independently and still grow and still add to your resume and still set out goals to do this, to do that? Are you that person? If you're not, then you're going to find yourself where your resume I have from 19 or from 2010 to 2018, nothing changed. And then you'll call me and you'll say, what do I need to do? And the first thing I'm going to ask you is, what have you already done? That is the first thing I'm going to ask. I have to start from where you are, where your mindset is, in order to know how to take you where you need to go. So this is something I want everyone to do. And just like I say all the time, you all hear me saying, I cannot stress it enough. Some of you all don't know how to do that on your own. I am here for you. I have a membership, a coaching program that you can join called Stretch. A lot of you all have already joined it, and we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna get it together. This is a program that offers you the coaching that you need so that we can get these resumes together, so that we can get the movement together, so that we can look back and say, God, like I told you, my nail girl said, I did not realize I have done so much. But even in doing so much, we have to then make it count. Okay, you've done a lot, but what have you done with it? So that is my goal. Again, most of you all know the number. I'll say it again. It's 708-798-7900. This is where you can actually text me directly if you want information on stretch. This is necessary, guys. Either you're going to do it, or you're going to get somebody else to help you do it, or you're going to be still in the same position 30 years from now that you are today. And you're going to find yourself at 60, at 70, still not doing hair because you want to, but doing hair because you have to. It grieves my soul. And I know people right now that are in their 60s that have zero desire to continue doing hair, but they haven't added to the resume. They haven't set up an action plan. They haven't set goals where year by year they're looking at or projections on what we call it, meaning that you're projecting by this year, you would have done this, you would have accomplished that, you would have made this amount of money, whatever it is. They haven't done that. So now here they are, physically restrained, and they don't have a choice. I don't want any of us to get there. We're at that cycle of life with 30, 40 years in the game. We haven't created any options for ourselves, and now we just feel stuck. But you have to be conscious of the journey. You cannot just be so affixed into, I'm just doing hair, making people pretty, and then you're not affixed in the fact that this body has physical restraints. Very few of us as stylists/owners really take good care of ourselves. I'm guilty too. We don't eat like we're supposed to. We don't work out. We don't do anything that really promotes good health. So we are not going to be able to endure. We're not going to be able to continue pushing these bodies to the wire if we don't start thinking about our lives in a chronicled order and doing something different. It's like stacking up a deck of cards. You start here, then you add more, then you add more, then you add more. So you allow yourself to have more options. That is what we have to do, guys. So I gave you just a snippet of Martin Luther King's resume. So I need you to say, well, what's yours? What's your resume? What's your resume look like? Okay? This is something that I want everybody to think. So this is a serious talk today. Y'all know I can get real radical and crazy. But when I listened to that, that's what it said to me. It said not just so much about the effectiveness of what he did, but the fact that every year, matter of fact, it wasn't even every year. He was doing 3 and 4 things without the year, throughout the year. But it wasn't because he couldn't do other stuff. It was because he was laser focused on his win. I asked you all last week. I'll ask you all again. What does winning look like to you? When you see that win, that's how you start stacking up the deck. I need this card, that. I need all of this to be part of my resume so that I can eventually get to the Super Bowl. Okay, and for those of y'all that may not have heard last week, that was the analogy that I used. If you ask any person that is a professional football player, no matter what cycle of life they're in, if they're practicing, if their game season just started, wherever it is, you ask them what does winning look like, they're going to say the Super Bowl. So Martin knew what he wanted to see. He had a dream, as he said, that everybody will be free and will have the same rights and will be able to go into the same places. That was what winning looked like to him. So everything he did, because he was focused, was about getting there. Okay? So this is what I want us to get. Some of you salon owners, you're not going to get there being all over the place. It's not going to happen. You cannot get there being all over the map. Andrew Morrison, he's the author of Small Business Boot Camp, I think it's called. He said something in the 27 ways to grow your business in 90 days. And if you join my stretch movement, you'll get this disc. It's one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. And he talks about, believe it or not, specialists actually make more money than generalists. If you just want to look at it from that standpoint. When you become a specialist, when you become known for something, or when you become the go-to person for this thing, believe it or not, your worth goes up. Your worth is lessened when you all over the place, because you can't charge max dollar when you all over the place, because you really can't give one thing your all, because you're everywhere. So think about that. And I agree with that. A specialist makes way more money and they're able to be focused in one direction. Everything King did, even though it encompassed different things, it literally was still around, I want us all to be free. Okay, so I want to leave that with you all today. And I'm getting ready. You all make sure you put your notifications on for me. Make sure you share this video too. Put your notifications on for me because our bed and breakfast tour is getting ready to start. And next, it'll be Sunday or Monday. My schedule, I'm looking at my schedule here. My schedule's kind of bananas. But next Sunday, more than likely, it's going to be Sunday evening from 6 to 9. That's a good time for me. I'm going to be doing some snippets of some of the modules that you're going to learn. And this on real people, y'all. In the bed and breakfast tour. I got two things working. I teach business and color. That's it. That's it. That's all I do. Don't ask me to do no cutting classes, no weaving class. I used to do all that. I used to be all over the place until I found my niche. I found it. This is what I do. And those are kind of simultaneously working. So this is what I do. So I'm going to be announcing and showing you some snippets or showing you a trailer of some of the things you can learn when you go to the bed and breakfast tour. So make sure you put your notifications on for me. I'm going to be coming on a lot. I'm going to be doing lives with some of the partners. I got Eddie Natalie Spencer on the line there. I'm going to be doing some lives with my partner there. We're going to also stretch. The membership is closed March 1st. After March 1st, you can't join, period. I want this is what I got, and stretches from 1 year from February 1st. Membership is from February 1st to February 1st. That's it. You either have to join by February 1st or I'll see you next year, period. If you want more information on the stretch movement, which is an empowerment movement, and it is for salon owners, then text me again at 708-798-7900. And I just want you to get those resumes together. That's one of the first assignments. For some of my people that are on here that have already joined Stretch, that's one of your first assignments, which I'm going to put that. We have our own private Facebook page. I'm going to put that up. I need to see your resume. I need to see it. I don't care nothing about what you've been doing since you was 12. I want to hear about from the day you were licensed. I want to hear about what it is. And when I say licensed, let me refrain from that. There are some salon owners that actually don't do hair. So I'm talking about your professional career in this industry. So if some of the salon owners that actually have inquired, it made me think about that have been salon owners but are not stylists, I still want to see your resume from the minute you stepped into this industry. What have you been doing? Okay? So that's going to be the first assignment for you, because this is how we start setting up tiers of growth. Is okay within this cycle, corporate or corporations set their years up into quarters, and every quarter something has to happen. Every quarter something has to progress, or in their minds we're failing. Whether it's money, they took on some new partners, or they expanded in a particular area, something has to happen, and we are not doing this, guys, and this is why we're not seeing growth. So it is my time, guys. You all have been great. See, this was an educational Facebook Live. Okay? You all have been absolutely wonderful. I'm going to look forward to you. Text me if you're interested in the stretch movement, 708-798-7900. Also text me if you are interested in bed and breakfast tour. I got information on all of that. And text me if you're interested. We have what's called a Salon Owners Conference, which is at the end of next year. Now, this is the thing, though. If you join the stretch movement, you get the conference ticket for free. But if you don't, then you can always still come to the conference, and I can send you information about that also. So I'm going to sign off now. This is Knowledge by Nikki with 1K. I have enjoyed this. I said this is an educational moment. All right. So you all make sure you share this. And if you get a chance, I'm going to find out if you want to know the name of the documentary that I looked at. I got it saved to my favorites on my iPad and on my cable system. I got it saved because it was really excellent. It was absolutely excellent. And I'm telling you, I summed it up, but it was a lot of stuff that I didn't know. And I thought I had learned quite a bit about King, but it was a lot of stuff I didn't know. So if you want to see what a resume looks like, you're not sure, it's also something good to kind of show you, because they told you in 1961, this, in 1963, this, and this is how a resume really has to be written, guys. So I'm getting ready to sign off. Peace out. You want any information in any of those areas, text me. I can send it directly to you. Or you can direct message me at my private page or my personal page, which is Nikki with 1K. Smith Madison, that's the page you're streaming from. And then I also have my Knowledge by Nikki. I got two gadgets going here. I got my Knowledge by Nikki group. Hey, Knowledge by Nikki group. And for those of you all that are sending me friend requests, I think I'm maxed out or almost maxed out. So like my Knowledge by Nikki page. I do everything simultaneously. Just like my Knowledge by Nikki page, you'll get the same benefits of watching me on my private page or my personal page, and you won't miss anything. So just like me, if I haven't been able to respond back to you, and because, you know, it's a lot of y'all that be sending a friend request, and I don't always have time to sit down and go through them, because I actually look at your page. I don't just hit accept. No, I look at your page. And I'm going to tell you right now what I look for. I'm going to be transparent. This is what I look for when I look at your page. Facebook for me is not my cyber diary. I realize for a lot of you all, that's what it is, and that's fine. I look for people who show passion, who, if I don't see anything hair related in your Facebook page, chances are I'm not going to accept your friend requests, because I want to connect with people that somewhat value what I value. I know your hair, and see, by Facebook being our page that we can actually put whatever we want on, what is important to you, believe it or not, is going to be on your Facebook page. Your Facebook page is going to represent what matters to you. So I want some of what matters to me, or I want people who want to learn and us collaborate to be able to come together. So I look at your page. I do. I look at it. I scroll through it. I say, okay, if all I see is food and this and that and the other, I'm just being honest with you. Chances are I'm probably not going to accept your friend request, because I want us to be able to feed off of each other. You all send me things. I love it. I learn from you. I send you things. You learn from me. But if that's not really that important to you, then considering we only got 5,000 friends that we can have, I want to make my 5,000 friends count. That is what I use my Facebook for. So anyone can like my Facebook, my Knowledge by Nikki page. That's with 1K. That has no limit on how many people that it actually will allow you. So I just want you to know that. But please do share this video. I'll be on tomorrow with something really powerful. I got a couple subjects that I want to talk about throughout the week. So you all got to tune in tomorrow. 7:30 to 8 now, guys. I'm doing it a little bit later. I've had requests. I've done 7. I've done 8. Some people said 8 was too late. Some people said 7 is too early. So I'm right in the middle. And 7:30 really works well for me. It really is a good time for me, even though I get up early. So I'll see you all tomorrow. I love you all. You all have changed my life. You all tell me I've changed yours. No, you have changed mine. I never take for granted. You all have several things that you can listen to, and several, especially on Facebook. Y'all got a whole lot of stuff you can focus in. And I just thank God I see the same names all the time. I appreciate you. I just want to see you at the top. Again, Knowledge by Nikki, 1K. See you tomorrow.